Yeah, can you see it now?
We just have one event, and this event is that I'm live streaming at the moment. In our respect, studio creator. Yeah. Yeah.
This is where I am now.
Oh, that's interesting. What does that mean?
As you were saying, it says events, they go to events, and it says now live. And there it is, I can see it, and there is a camera, at least, it's filming us.
Very interesting. Very progressive.
Are you sure that you're not using the right
Based in San Francisco. Both Peter and we have offices in ours.
Yeah, just set it out on the website. Yeah, thank you.
All of that. Oh yeah. I'm not listening. How long is this?
All right, hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Nestor. I'm with BSR and GBCAT. I do not want people to stop talking or drinking right now. That is totally fine. Feel free to grab a drink, fill up your glass. We've got some food coming, I think, on the way very shortly. We did put together a little bit of a program tonight. We wanted to demo our new tool, and I wanted to give all of the collaboration partners an opportunity to say hello. So if you'd like to come over and grab a seat or stay over near the drinks, that's fine too. Whatever suits. We may have a few more people trickling in, but I think just in the interest of time, why don't we go ahead and get started? So a big thank you. Hey, this turned into an event. Thank you all very much for coming out tonight, especially on such a beautiful night in the city. As I mentioned, my name is Peter Nestor. I'm loosely representing a group of wonderful organizations that came together to work on this tool over the past 4 months. I am formally with BSR, Director of Human Rights. There, we are based in the United States. We're a nonprofit human rights organization in the United States. We do still have those; they exist. But it's very, very nice to be over here. Also wearing the hat I mentioned as the Secretariat of the Global Business Coalition Against Human Trafficking. This is an organization that my friend David Arkless started 7 years ago, and Robert, exactly, started 7 years ago. BSR has been very happy to be working with this organization, and through them, helping to build this collaboration to develop this tool. Yeah, look, so we just wanted to give folks a quick chance to say hello for all of the organizations that did this. We want to provide a little demo of the website. I've got it up here on my laptop. We'll do that afterwards. We also want to give our keynote speaker, Baroness Philippa Stroud, an opportunity to address the group. Let me answer one other question, though. Why are we here today? The reason is because these organizations that you see on the screen, we're all working on the same thing. We were all last year trying to understand how many different initiatives, organizations, nonprofits, funders, business groups were all coming together to work on human trafficking and modern slavery with businesses. And Eric Anderson and other companies that we work with at BSR said, hey, somebody should organize this into some kind of a map so that we can all figure out what's going on in this space. On behalf of GBCAT, we called up the group at Respect, Livia, and said, hey, we're working on this. They said, we're working on this too. ILO said, we're working on this. Babson said, hey, we're working on this as well. UN Global Compact said, we're working on this. So we've all been advising everyone else to get coordinated and get organized so that we can all be on the same page, and so we decided to do that. So this is very much a product of a collaboration that has happened since January this year. We worked very quickly to combine all of our data and to build this website. So I'm very proud to be announcing it today. We kind of have adopted a Silicon Valley approach to this, where build it, get version 1 out, although we know there are some tweaks that need to be made to it, and we welcome all of your feedback either today or in the coming months as we continue to update the website. Good, before I continue, I wanted to give a big thank you to BT for hosting us this evening and invite Eric Anderson, who's on the human rights team at BT, to just come up and say a few words. Eric, thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and a huge welcome on behalf of BT to our headquarters, BT Centre. I'm actually feeling quite nostalgic about this building because just a few days ago we announced that we're actually going to be moving out of this building after 34 years. And we've been on the site much longer time than this. In fact, BT is the oldest telecommunications company in the world. In 1874, they moved the Central Telegraph Office into a building on this site. And that same year, an Italian man you may have heard of called Marconi was born. And he went on to develop the first apparatus for long-distance radio communications. He was 21 when he came back to this site and showcased the first public transmission of wireless signals. In fact, you'll have walked past a plaque on the outside of the building commemorating this. There's real history of innovation in this building, and I've personally been here for 17 years, so I feel a bit teary-eyed about the idea of leaving this. It's going to be a big change coming, not just for me, but for everybody in the building. Questions like, where are we going to move to? What's going to happen next? Nobody's really sure. And it brought to mind that change feels uncertain. It's difficult to navigate, but it's sometimes very necessary to make progress, to move forward. I've heard it said, if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always got. And with this issue that brings us here today, modern slavery and human trafficking, we desperately need to make progress and to move forward. We all need to change, despite the uncertainty and the difficulties to navigate. All of us here are change makers for this. We all need to manage and manifest change on this issue. So it strikes me that as we do this, there are at least 3 considerations we need to focus on. And I wanted to share them with you. The first is awareness. And many of you will know that modern slavery is a hidden crime. It's unseen in the shadows of our society. People simply don't know that it's happening in front of them, and they don't know how to spot it. We have to change this so everyone is aware of what it is and what they can do about it. That's why we're proud to be the founding partner of the UK's Modern Slavery Helpline, operated by the fantastic team on Zoom who are here with us. Second, we need transparency. Transparency for our actions, transparency on what we know and what we don't know, transparency to help inform the debate on how we're performing and where to go next. If people know what we're doing on all this, then they also know what we're not doing. And debating that is going to help us all make progress. But let's also debate based on evidence. Let's commit to being data-driven in our approaches. There's simply not enough data yet to help us successfully navigate the challenges of eradicating modern slavery. And thirdly, we need collaboration. The scale of the problem is simply too big for any one organisation to tackle alone. We need to join forces. And this event this evening will, I'm sure, prove the value of collaboration. Mapping out the landscape of anti-trafficking organisations, as we'll hear tonight, is something we and I know others feel has been sorely lacking, sorely needed. And I'm absolutely delighted that the partners here have recognised this need, listened to that need, and collaborated to make it happen. I can't wait to hear more, so I'll pass back to Peter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. All right, I want to just continue moving along here through some of the organizations. I'm going to start with Wade Bromley, and I've got my mic runner back here. Wade, over here, great. Wade is the Senior Technical Advisor at the ILO and heads the Global Business Network for Forced Labor and Trafficking.
Yeah, we're working on a rebranding of that. We need an acronym or something. So we just decided, because there's like a conga line of us to speak, that we'll just stand up where we are, so the mic will go back and forth. So I'm heading up this new initiative. It's a partnership between the ILO and the private sector. Specifically, we're talking about companies of all sizes, so not just multinationals, but trying to get SME to sit at the same table with business and employer membership networks to take a deeper look at these issues and come back to this question of how do we collaborate? How do we kind of leverage our collective action to really make an impact and at scale? The network itself is the outcome of progressive steps taken over the last 2 or 3 years by the ILO to work more closely with the private sector, but I think in the process redefine that relationship as well. How do we work on the ground? And that's kind of what led us towards this collaboration here. As a new initiative, we were aware over the last 2 or 3 years, like you all are, there's just been a wave after wave after wave of new actors and initiatives, tools, kind of out there in the market. And it's extremely challenging to navigate for us as it is with you. And quite frankly, it's quite challenging for us to navigate internally as well in some of the programs that we're investing in globally on this, because that last 2-3 year process has triggered a lot of new partnerships. So we kind of came at this as a first step for the network to try and establish some kind of a baseline, to understand where time, resources and capacity were being invested in tackling these issues, to understand who was stepping up and perhaps who was not stepping up, and then to kind of get beyond that, have a look at how we might bring all these pieces together into a more effective collaboration. What might that look like? So we kind of initiated some of our own digging internally, and then started to reach out and join forces with a EU research consortium who themselves spent a couple of years mapping some of this. And then through that process, we were quite fortunate to line up with BSR, who then put us in the path for the other collaborators here. I think what was great for us was to find that everybody else is also trying to respond to businesses' need for help to navigate this space. So that was really kind of what was at the heart of this. And under the Alliance 8.7, we found the space to formally collaborate and make sure that what we've produced here doesn't just remain on a website for us and the visitors to the website. It's actually paid for into a global multi-stakeholder platform to be shared and to continue, we hope, to grow. I think it's really important there that we have this kind of vision. Today's product, which you'll get to see, is excellent. It's a great first step, and I'm really excited to see where this collaboration goes next, to see if we can provide another vantage point for business and other stakeholders to look at how we are investing and coming at these issues from multiple directions, and how then to align a lot of this work that we're already invested in. So that's all from me. I think we get to the demo as soon as possible, but thanks very much for having us, BSR and BT, for hosting us, and to all the partners we've collaborated with here on this product.
Very good. Thank you, Will. We'll bring the mic over here to Sarah DiGiulio. Thank you. Good. From the International Organization for Migration.
Hello, good evening to everyone, and welcome to warm sunny London. I'm honoured to be representing IOM UN Migration Agency here to this special occasion, I think, for the launch of this collaborative effort to really map initiatives for businesses around human trafficking, forced labour, child labour, and also modern slavery. I think I'll take a step this way. I'm from the IOM UK country office. In my day-to-day job, I'm working to support those who are supporting also unaccompanied children and victims of trafficking and modern slavery in the UK. So I can say that the risk for those people of labour exploitation and other forms of exploitation is actually as real here as it is in any part of the world. And I wanted to bring it back to the individual in my little intervention today. So we can no longer assume that this is happening somewhere else, that this is someone else's responsibility. Victims of trafficking and modern slavery around the world need everyone's concerted efforts to be seen, heard, and to have their human rights and dignity reinstated. So in 2015, states adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and renewed their political commitment to combat human trafficking. The fight to end human trafficking is central to the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration as well, which will be adopted at the end of 2018. That said, we know that human trafficking and modern slavery cannot be stopped by states alone. In our globalised economy, the demand for cheap labour and services is what is driving human trafficking. Yet the responsibility of the industries and consumers demanding cheap labour, cheap goods, often goes unrecognised. We as a global community must address this demand and recognise that goods are sold as cheaply as they are because of the exploitation of workers, and many of those are migrant workers. Addressing the demand side of trafficking requires a fundamental shift in the way that individuals, investors, businesses behave, and greater private sector involvement. IOM is encouraged to see that companies are increasingly aware of the social costs and particularly the human costs of doing business, and are actively addressing it in their supply chains. We must build on this momentum and keep up this good work. So to continue its efforts in supporting private sector engagement in the fight against trafficking, IOM, with the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organised Crime and Babson College's Initiative on Human Trafficking and Modern Slavery launched the Responsible and Ethical Private Sector Coalition Against Trafficking, or RESPECT. The RESPECT initiative provides a platform for peer exchange of best practice and existing strategies for countering human trafficking in supply chains, and helps foster new initiatives with the support of tools for identifying and combating this issue that are aimed also at stakeholders and decision makers. And building on this initiative, IOM is very proud to join forces with the RESPECT partners, with BSR, the UN Global Compact, as well as ILO and Alliance 8.7, to develop this comprehensive and interactive mapping of existing organisations and initiatives that are aimed at helping the private sector counter human trafficking. So we hope the mapping will increase the understanding amongst organisations working with the private sector of what others are already doing to build learning on this issue. Finally, IOM brings to this partnership its extensive global experience working on counter-trafficking in terms of policy program and also technical support. Since 1994, counter-trafficking has been one of our priority areas, and we've implemented more than 2,600 projects in 150 countries, assisting over 90,000 victims and trafficked persons. So IOM works with industry leaders in multiple sectors to champion the protection of the rights of migrant workers. We help companies adhere to ethical standards in the recruitment of migrant workers, such as through IRIS and CREST. And we also help to address their concerns related to the exploitation and abuse of those workers, for which we recently published the remediation guidelines for the mineral industry, the mining industry. So IOM can do so given its long-standing expertise and close relations with governments, networks of NGOs, civil society partners, and the presence in 480 offices worldwide. So thank you again for having us here. We're extremely happy to be part of this, and we do look forward to seeing this platform grow and more countering human trafficking, modern slavery to follow thanks to these collaborations.
Steve Kenzie from, yes, great.
I'll go here. Hi, thanks very much for having me. I'm delighted to be representing the UN Global Compact here today. The Global Compact is the UN's corporate sustainability initiative. We have 13,000 signatories globally, 9,600 of which are businesses. So to some extent, we represent the users of this tool and are happy to do so. Global Compact launched in 2000 when Kofi Annan called upon global business leaders to join with the UN to initiate a global compact of shared values and principles to put a human face on global markets. And those 10 principles are all derived from UN treaties in the areas of human rights, labor standards, environment, and anti-corruption. And our fourth principle from back then calls upon business to eradicate all forms of forced and compulsory labor. So certainly this is an issue that's central to our mission. We are global and local, and I represent the local and can take no credit whatsoever for the work that went into this project. That was my colleagues in New York that are leading on an action platform that consists of 19 global companies along with some NGOs, ILO are involved, and a number of other local networks that are working on promoting decent work in global supply chains. Language that might sound familiar from Goal 8 and the SDGs, and of course this all links into Target 8.7, the eradication of forced labor. So they are working to drive change globally, and these companies are working with us to identify best practice and innovate on solutions to find a solution. Okay, locally we're also busy in this area though. We have a modern slavery working group that's been going for a couple of years now, initially to help our member companies better understand what was expected of them with regard to the UK Modern Slavery Act, and that has now evolved. One of our useful innovations in that group has been a peer review scheme to help improve the quality of the reporting that's going on relating to the Act, and thereby help those reports serve their real function to drive change, and that's been going very well. We also provide the Secretariat for an all-party parliamentary group on sport, modern slavery and human rights that maybe you've heard of, and if not, let me know. We'd be delighted to have more people involved in that. I think I'm going to end it there. I guess our next big initiative as a local network in this space is going to be to make sure that all our members are aware of this tool. I'm sure they're going to find it tremendously useful, and so I congratulate all of you that were actually involved in its creation and doing such a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Well represented. Let's pass the mic over to Livia from the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime.
Hello, everyone. My name is Livia Wagner from the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. We are a think and do tank based in Geneva, and we're working on different forms of organized crime. And we believe that organized crime is such a multidimensional and dynamic phenomenon nowadays that we also have to look at it from different angles, involving different stakeholders. So we founded the Respect Initiative early this year. And one of the exciting initiatives or activities from the Respect Initiative was this stakeholder mapping. And I think it reflects very well what we should do more is collaborate. We should work between the different sectors, among the different organizations, and between the industries. And I think this is a great start, not only for us, but also to bring here together different stakeholders, different people being engaged and being interested in that. So I'm very happy that we, the partner organizations, and of course with support from Eric and BT, we managed to really look at and focus at the goal and leave our organization's hat behind as much as we could do, but really focus on something that we want to make together. And yeah, we're also welcoming any feedback because there will be another follow-up version, not next week, but sometime. It entails a lot of work, but we're just very happy and proud that we started now this first version. But of course, we're happy to hear your feedback and what you think, what we could improve and so on. But also to let us know what you think, what other activities would be necessary in this area. So yeah, I'm stopping here and I'm handing over the mic to
Melissa Partridge.
Melissa here.
Good, thank you.
Hello, I'm Melissa Partridge, and I am from Babson College, and I'm the Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations. Like Steve, I've had nothing to do with this project, but I'm so happy to be here representing my colleague Christina Bain, who leads our initiative on human trafficking and modern slavery. She sends her regards and apologies that she couldn't be here this evening, but I'm excited that I get to be here. I just want to thank all of you. I don't know how much you know about Babson College, so I will tell you. We are a business college right outside of Boston, about 30 minutes outside of Boston. We have traditional undergraduate and graduate programming, but we also have centers for excellence and initiatives like our Human Trafficking and Modern Slavery Initiative. It was founded 100 years ago by a gentleman named Roger Babson, and he strongly believed in social impact and doing business for good, which I think aligns so beautifully with this project. It is also a major priority of our current president. So we've been #1 in entrepreneurship for 25 years in the US, yes, higher than MIT. We're very proud of that. But again, one of our missions is really the social impact and doing business for good. A little bit about our initiative on human trafficking. It really focuses on the role of business to fight against human trafficking and heighten awareness in the private sector. And thank you, Sarah, for talking about the Respect Initiative, because I was certain I was going to stumble all over all the organizations and what Respect stood for, so thank you for giving that description. We are involved in Respect. We also have a program targeted at high school youth to educate them on the fundamentals of entrepreneurship and how to create strategies around anti-trafficking. We also do case studies and research, webinars, and convenings. In 2018, we're going to be exploring how do we use the arts as a preventative measure to engage at-risk populations for trafficking. And lastly, we're developing programs for financial literacy for survivors, and we're very excited about that. So that's a bit about Babson, and thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. I'll invite David Arkless to come up to the mic here and both provide a little bit of background on GBCAT and introduce our keynote speaker. Before I do, I would just encourage everyone who wants to be active on social media, Twitter, whatever, take pictures, tweet, get the word out. We are all about being as public as we can today. So, good.
Hashtag.
Modern Slavery Map. Hashtag Modern Slavery Map. That's the name of the website, and captures what we're trying to do. So, good. David.
I have no idea why I get invited up here and everybody else gets to stay down there. Anyway, they told me to be extremely brief, so that's it. Thank you. Good night. No, I'll be here all week. GBCAT, Global Business Coalition Against Trafficking. We started it a number of years back. Robert and I were the first co-chairs, and we're really proud to be partnering this initiative, and I'll tell you why. So we come from the grubby world of commerce, just like some of the other people around here, those people who do nothing without a commercial incentive, except some organizations do and always have done. GBCAT was founded by a bunch of iconic corporations. Some of the founders were Exxon, Microsoft, NXP, Manpower Group, Pricewaterhouse, etc., etc. We got together, actually initially out of self-interest, because we had been working on initiatives about supply chain verification, human trafficking, the use of abusive practices in the labor chain for years. And all of a sudden we decided, hey, maybe we can do this better together. So we founded GBCAT, and when we had our first meeting, which I think was at ExxonMobil, we sat around a table and we said, hey, isn't this a great idea? What do we do now? So we tried to work that out, and literally 2 days later, in New York, the team, because they knew I was in New York, got me on CNN for a 40-minute interview about GBCAT, its history, the analysis we've done, all of the reasons why we were doing certain things. And so Robert and I had a call, and we kind of made it up as we went along. So basically, I was calling him while I was on CNN saying, is that right? Shall I say this? So basically, we started off with a mission of help each other, cooperate with each other, communicate with each other, and that's it. Then we went on to, hey, why don't we get a whole bunch of other big corporations? And then why don't we start corporations with organizations that help small to medium-sized enterprises? And. So it just kind of spread from there. And I do have to say thank you to Peter, who's from BSR, because what we seriously needed, being a bunch of maverick global corporations, was a steady rock around which to organize and be a secretariat. And there's something in that you need to remember when you put together coalitions, alliances, not-for-profits, even if it's corporate involvement, whatever else. It still won't get organized unless you organize it. And that's what we found, even though we're super professional big corporations. So we managed to get through the CNN interview and start to develop GBCAT. And we've had an organization acceleration. Let me tell you this. I actually can say this because I was president for 25 years at a global company that turned over more than 25 billion. Companies aren't interested, most of them. They're just not interested. It took me 25 years to turn around the attitude, the culture, the operational involvement, the employee engagement of an 18 million person company. We had 18 million employees every year. Try giving them a passion for your core mission, and one of the core passions is we must stop the abuse of human beings, we must stop the abuse of labor, we must stop human trafficking, we must stop the abuse of moving people illegally from one country to another. So we started to get involved with my great friends at the IOM, at the ILO, at the Global Compact, and let me tell you, all of the bosses there are still passionate about this issue of stopping human abuse and human trafficking. I know you've got a new boss at the Compact, but the old one, I think, still is involved, Georg Kell, and he was absolutely passionate about this. So international organisations, foundations, institutes, research institutes are really passionate about this. But you've got to dig them out, find them, find the companies that really mean what they say and implement what they say and just get on with it. A few things we tried in GBCAT, so a couple of messages really. First thing we thought was, why don't we get a super coalition of all the not-for-profits in the United States in this area on survivor, on demand, on policing, on whatever else. So we sent a note out to, I think, 1,000 organisations, and we said, we think there are fantastic synergies to get together to form a super organisation in the United States. I won't tell you the actual words that were in most of the responses, but basically they said, get lost. We clearly did not have a resonance with something that meant something to each of those organisations, and we really should have worked that out before we started. The other thing we tried to do, Robert and I, was a simple thing. Why don't we just put two organisations together? Two organisations that operate exactly in this field of anti-human trafficking. And I was chairman of one in Geneva, and we were co-chairs of another one in the United States. We took a year and it still didn't work. So we need something that will bind together a coalition or a convergence and synergistic relationship. I honestly think that methodologies and tools like this can be the leverage that helps join people's mission, passion, and provides a link, a bridge between corporations, not-for-profits, international organisations, research organisations, etc. So complementarity can be achieved in really smart ways, and we need new tools like this to do it. We've been there, a number of us, we've got the t-shirt, it's got blood on the back. We think that this is a fantastic way forward. Now, speaking of smart ways to get social, economic and political things done, I'd like to introduce a great friend of mine to speak next. This lady sitting here is Baroness Stroud. She has worked tirelessly on improving the social fabric of this country for many, many years. I compare what she does to something I call the Wilberforce methodology. You probably haven't heard of that because I made it up today. So what she does with the organisation she works in is they work out what's wrong, they work out what's right, what's wrong, they attack it fully frontal. If that doesn't work, they go around it and achieve the objective anyway. That's what I'm calling now the Wilberforce methodology. And she is the master of this. From formative social work on the front line in Hong Kong, to advising UK government, to being special advisor to Secretary of State in the United Kingdom, to running as CEO of the Centre for Social Justice in the UK, to inventing the Commission for Social Metrics for the UK, because she believes if you can't measure it, you can't do anything about it. And many of the measures we've got with regard to social justice in the UK are just all wrong. So the Centre for Social Metrics, the Commission, she invented. She's also the CEO of the Legatum Institute, which is a remarkable support network in research, policy recommendation, and funnily enough, it's funded indirectly by commercial organisations in the financial services sector. Who would have ever thought it? So, and more and more and more. Could I just introduce Baroness Stroud? Thank you.
Thank you, David, so much for your warm words of welcome. And also thank you, where's Peter, for inviting me just to play a small part in the launch of this new tool. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and it's great to see numbers of you working together. So many people in our society face challenges and disadvantages, but victims of modern slavery are among some of the most vulnerable. I think each and every one of us in this room would probably agree to that. And you do not need me to tell you that human trafficking is one of the greatest global scourges of our generation. Globally, 66,000 people were identified as victims of human trafficking in 2016, a 40% increase on 2012. And even this number may only represent about 1% of the real figure. So, identifying and assisting victims of human trafficking is complex because their issues are complex and hidden. And if you are a company wanting to engage in this crucial issue, it can be really hard to know where to start. David was talking about the ones who didn't even want to start, but actually if you do want to start, it can be really difficult to know how and where to engage. And the situation of a person who's been trafficked is desperate, stripped of agency, power and dignity, often in an unfamiliar country with little known way out. But what can a UK-based company actually do, and how do you find that pathway? And that is what this tool, I believe, is all about. And when I was thinking about being with you here this evening, my mind went back to the 1700s, to the list of phenomenal people who were involved in abolishing the slave trade. Some household names, but many not household names, but all contributors to the abolishing of slavery. So if I say to you, Anthony Benezet, the teacher, Phyllis Wheatley, a poet, Granville Sharp, a civil servant, Ignatius Sancho, the composer, William Wilberforce, the name we all know, the politician, Josiah Wedgwood, the industrialist, James Stephen, the lawyer, Baron Grenville, the statesman, and I, probably like many of you, have looked at those names and drawn inspiration from their lives. But I've often thought too, what would it have been like to have worked with them? What would it have been like to have actually been there when they were going through the process? But what they did was no different from those of you who are here now, working to address the challenges of our generation. They took responsibility for the huge moral challenge that confronted them and made the contribution they could from their own profession. Poet, singer, lawyer, politician, industrialist. They took what they had and they contributed to the battle against modern slavery of their time. They were people like Babson College, the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organised Crime, International Organisation for Migration, the Global Business Against Anti-Trafficking, United Nations Global Compact, BT and the ILO. People just like the people in this room. And what I've observed from being involved with social policy at a national level is, as many of you have alluded to, that major change does not come about through one person or one organisation. Once we've identified the problem, which we clearly have in this instance, and found the solution, which your map directs people to, we need to build a coalition, as has been alluded to see real change happen. One example of this was the establishment of the Slavery Act in the first place. I can remember a day when two young businessmen walked into my office and sat down in front of me and said, "Philippa, if you want to change something in a nation, how would you go about doing it?" So I described to them how I would go about doing it, that I would want to put together all the facts that they were available, a clear analysis of the problem, a clear analysis of the solutions, documenting all the statistics that were available, like a Bible approach to a certain challenge. And they said, "We'd like one of those." And then they said, "How much would it cost?" So I told them. And they said, "We'll go and raise the money." And they went and raised the money, and it funded a piece of research that was chaired by Andrew Wallace, and numbers of you in this room probably contributed too. And it brought together people from all sorts of disciplines two young businessmen kicking off this whole process, which led to the It Happens Here report, which led directly to Theresa May introducing, well, not quite directly, but almost directly to Theresa May introducing the Modern Day Slavery Act. The UN Global Compact, as has been said today, states that you aim to mobilize a global movement of sustainable companies and stakeholders to create the world we want. That is your vision. As this event shows, there are companies who understand the merits of being a business that stands for the social good. Many companies are starting to understand that there can be a critical link between internal processes, better performance in the areas of environmental and social responsibility. Research has shown that a strong and well-communicated purpose can boost financial performance by up to 17%. Actively managing and measuring corporate responsibility is hugely important to organisational resilience, and companies that did this recovered faster from the 2008 financial crisis, with shareholders' return on average 10% higher in 2009 than the companies that did not. And among consumers, if you're not convinced by your own business practices, among consumers, 84% say they try to purchase products and services that are socially and environmentally responsible wherever possible. There is an interest for businesses to be involved in doing the right thing. Research also found that nearly 2/3 of young people won't take a job at a company with poor corporate social responsibility practices, and those with an eye to recruiting millennials know that this is the case. 83% of millennials would be more loyal to a business that enables them to contribute to solving social and environmental problems. So these stats will come as no surprise to businesses in this room. In fact, the fact that you are here probably indicates that you already know these stats. But we need to continuously educate employers and shareholders to this effect and get the message out there that this is the case. And we need to provide employers with a continuous stream of accurate advice and tools to help them make continuous improvements in their processes. And this map that you're launching today is precisely one of those tools. As you have stated yourselves, this mapping will serve as a resource for companies and other organisations seeking to contribute to the eradication of modern slavery. It is a call to companies to align your strategies and operations with universal principles on human rights, labour, environment and anti-corruption, and take actions that advance societal goals. So as you have said, the launch today marks the successful development and release of this new tool to help businesses navigate the way through these very difficult waters. Modern slavery, human trafficking, the abuse of human beings and human rights is a nightmare issue for most companies with ethical, social, economic, reputational and media challenges if we get it wrong. This tool will at least help start a journey towards transparency, improvement and better social contribution. And I wish you all the best in your efforts and look forward to hearing the stories of lives changed and freedom brought because of your contribution to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Baroness Stroud. Really, really nice to have you here, and thank you for those lovely remarks. Very good. One more part of the agenda here. So there is a tool behind this landing page. We wanted to provide just a very, very quick demo of how it works, and we kept it simple because we knew that this tool would be standing between 60 people and food and alcohol, and so we want to make sure that it's very, very easy to use. Click on the front button there. We've got all of the organizations, about 75 that we have mapped, organized by type of organization, the issue that they're focused on, the geography that they're focused on, or the industry that they are focused on. Once you click in here, you can sort of easily move between each of those 4 categories, but if we're looking at a specific industry, let's just take apparel. This is where the results come in on this bar over here. And then we can drill down a little bit closer. So of the apparel organizations that we found, we've got several that we've tagged as initiatives, 6 there that come up: Better Work, Cotton Campaign, Cotton Program, No Fees Initiative, several others. We could then say how many of these apparel initiatives are in Asia. We've got a couple there. We can back that out and take a look globally. Better Work is the only one tagged there. The global tag is interesting because there's a lot of other organizations that are kind of in these global and cross-industry tags that pick up organizations that are working across a lot of different geographies and issues. So that's the basic idea. If you'd like to sort by the issue, the 5 that we've put up here are child labor, forced labor, organ removal, recruitment, and sexual exploitation. Although, of course, there are many others. The final button that I'll show you here is the See All button. So if you ever get lost or just want to see all of these organizations, these are the 75 that we have mapped. What happens when you click on these is we get a note card that gives a little bit more information about the organization, so the type, the industry, the location, the issue, who's behind the organization, what do they do, what are their focus areas, and then how do you get in touch and contact them. And that is about it. The idea here was to keep it as simple as possible, to find as many organizations as possible, and to try to do it in a way that allows companies to investigate based on issues or geographies that they are interested in. Finally, we have a short user guide that's available, linked also from the map, sort of in this corner drop-down menu here. We also have another resources page, and I just wanted to call out the Respect Initiative. They have developed this fantastic resource center that maps a lot of other toolkits and articles and reports and guidance and research coming out on modern slavery and human trafficking. All of that is captured here, and it can all be linked from our page. Very good, thank you. I will only close by saying that when we were getting involved with all these organizations and BSR getting involved with GBCAT, we had a lot of people come up and say, we don't need another organization working on modern slavery and human trafficking. We already have too many. I fundamentally disagree. We're losing this battle, quite frankly. And the problem is not too many organizations. The problem is that we're not all talking to each other and we're not all organized. And that is going to be one of the critical pieces to winning this battle eventually over the long run. To the extent that this tool helps just a little bit to protect people who are in very, very difficult circumstances. Very proud to represent the organizations working on it. And we hope that you will use it, spread it around your networks, and enjoy the event this evening. A lot of organizations were called up here, but I know there are so many other experts and other great organizations in the room. I really hope that everyone can stick around. We've got this room till 8 p.m. Feel free to enjoy wine, beer, and some food provided by BT. Thank you again, Eric, for hosting us, and thank you all again for coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's there. Yeah. Yeah, we try to keep it really simple because there are so many organizations. Because when you, but beginning we had over 100, but then we started to see like for instance, our organizations that work at but I'm sure they're going to be